So can you tell us a little bit more about why the BMA took what some people might regard as a rather brave decision to stand up and give their opinion on Brexit?
Yes, I was at the BMA conference when this motion was debated, and the overwhelming reason was the feeling that doctors have a duty to speak up on policies where they believe harm will come to patients. And there was a lot of evidence has been produced by the BMA, has done briefings on the impact of Brexit on health and healthcare, and it is very serious. Lots of areas of concern. There's at least 11 significant areas of concern in relation to medicines, health generally, the workforce, and many of the things that you mentioned, plus many other things. Things people might not even realise. For example, Britain collaborates with European countries on being prepared for example, pandemics of infectious diseases. So we collaborate and we share information about that. We collaborate hugely on medical research and on developing new drugs and treatments. A lot of funding for British research actually comes from Europe, and that is all in jeopardy. There are 140,000 EU health and social care staff working in the UK. It's not just healthcare staff. Think about social care as well, extremely important. Something like 40% of EU doctors working in the UK are thinking of actually leaving because of the uncertainty, and something like 20% have actually made plans to leave because of the uncertainty for their future. We recognise medical qualifications as a reciprocal recognition, which means that something like 10% of doctors practicing in the UK have actually got qualifications from the EU. That would all end, that mutual recognition. We actually have reciprocal health arrangements, so that if you are sick in the EU, you can get treatment, and vice versa. That's under threat. There's regulation of doctors' working hours, which was the first thing that reduced those awful 100-hour weeks that I used to work as a junior doctor. That changed because of European working time directives. Also, there's regulation about air quality, about food quality, about medicines quality. It goes on and on. It's a huge issue, and I think that's what the doctors, the BMA, felt, that we have a duty to tell the public that this is a huge threat, and that now that we know more about what Brexit could mean for the health of the British people, the British people ought to have another chance to vote on whether they really do want to go ahead with Brexit, especially a no-deal Brexit, which would put all of these areas under real jeopardy.
Okay, Saira, I think you've got some questions.
Yeah, Dr. Louise, really interesting what you've just said. But I tell you what I'm really surprised at is that when the referendum was taking place, everybody had a chance to voice their concerns, either pro or against. Now, I have to say the British Medical Association is a big association, and the National Health Service is very close to everybody's heart. I don't remember the BMA coming out at that time and putting this case so passionately forward to the people at that time.
I'm not sure how much the BMA put the case passionately forward then. I know that the BMA is putting the case passionately forward now because it feels that the way that negotiations have gone, I think it's going to be, isn't it, March 2019 we're supposed to leave the EU, and we've got incredible uncertainty about the big picture, never mind the detailed stuff that I was listing there. So given that negotiations are not going well, and given the huge uncertainty, I think people are feeling extremely concerned about it and feel it is their duty.
And also the threats that we're having at the moment from the government wishing to be able to play the no-deal Brexit card without trying to go into that. But I know Saira and I were talking about this before the show, and we come at it from a completely different point of view. But you had a very good question, Saira, which was we already have a lot of Asian and African doctors, nurses coming in.
Exactly.
So couldn't we... I'll let you ask that question rather than me.
My question is, first of all, I am very surprised, even at this moment, that if you are a European doctor or nurse and you want to find a safe environment, one that gives you great opportunities for work, career, that actually Brexit would stop you from coming. That's my first point. And my second point is that actually of every 1,000 NHS staff in England, 875 are British, and then actually 16 49% are from Asian, African.
It's 69.
69. Sorry, 69.
So 6.9%.
Yeah, yes, that's right. Are from African, Asian, and other countries. So the EU actually, yes, it's important, but I mean, we can find people elsewhere.
Well, I think, we have a huge workforce crisis in the NHS. There are 100,000 vacancies.
Yeah.
So that therefore anything which actually reduces the supply of this workforce for health and social care risks worsening an already dreadful situation. And yes, we do have highly valued doctors from Asia and Africa. There are not enough of those to actually make up for the lack of medical and nursing staff. We know that the applications from nurses from the EU has really gone down by something like 90%.
Yep.
And also there's something about the culture. We're part of Europe, and young doctors and nurses and other health workers from Europe want to spend time working in the UK, and doctors and nurses from the UK also want to spend time working in Europe. But there was always this flow and interaction where there's really a lot just about work, but about sharing ideas, sharing culture, researching together, collaborating together. There's a whole kind of network and something very positive about being part of Europe, which we really risk losing. It's not just crude workforce statistics. It's also something about the broader benefits we get from being part of Europe and from the point of view of health and healthcare.
But Doctor, so just to sort of round off that point, the staffing fears. I mean, you said 100,000. I had down about 86,000, but maybe you're including the social workers side as well of the shortages of staff that we have. Are we saying that if the restriction of movement does go ahead, if we drop out with no deal, it might even still go ahead if we drop out with some sort of deal, because if you want to have freedom of movement, you have to have a customs union that comes with it. But if we don't have that freedom of movement, are you saying that we won't be able to fill those places with non-EU or some sort of controlled point system immigration?
Well, I don't know. We know that they've just recently lifted the cap on migration,
visas,
immigration visa, but we don't know. There still is an issue about how much people earn and whether there's an earning cap for people to come from other countries. There's also the moral question about whether we should really be overly relying on doctors who've been trained at the expense of basically much poorer countries, third world countries, training them and then relying on them for our workforce. Now, there's always been a tradition of doctors coming from Africa and Asia to work and study in the UK, and that's very healthy and very positive. But to actually think that our workforce should actually depend on doctors trained at the expense of poorer countries to somehow shore up our workforce requirements here, I think there is a moral question about that. I think we should be. There was this hope that we might be able to train enough doctors and nurses in the UK. That's not materialising, and it would be utterly irresponsible not to recognise the value of EU doctors and nurses
but Dr. Louise, let me just put this scenario to you. Let's say I'm a Spanish doctor and I want to come to the UK. Why would Brexit, right now as it stands, why would that put me off?
I've got two doctors in my practice who are from the EU who have thought that they would be settled in the UK forever, and are actually thinking they might leave.
But why? Because hold on. Let's be very clear.
Well, let the doctor reply to your question.
Let me tell you what my understanding is.
Saira,
their rights, their uncertainty about if they will be able to stay. There's a sense that they're not welcome. Many of them have been abused. Many of them actually feel that they're not valued and welcomed in the way they felt before. They wanted to be part of the UK because the UK part of Europe, and they feel that the UK has become very xenophobic and very negative towards Europeans. And so it's a cultural issue as well as a practical one. There is huge uncertainty about whether, especially if there's a no deal, whether they will actually have rights or whether new EU doctors will be able to come in and know that they can stay in the UK. And that is, I mean, that's a reality. Otherwise, why would there be a drop in applications? Why would people be making plans to leave? They wouldn't do it lightly. They actually see it as a major threat.
Let me just come back to you on that point then, because I think quite recently Theresa May has actually outlined what she wants for the European people who are already living here. She's outlined that if you've been here for 5 or more years...
That's all dependent on the deal that we get.
Okay, but she's setting it out. She's not scaremongering. She's setting out and making people feel comfortable. The other thing I will say is that you're talking about feelings. Feelings are very subjective. I'm renovating my house at the moment, and they are all Albanian, the workforce. They don't feel scared. They're not rushing back to Albania. They don't actually feel that Brexit has actually really changed their life. They're not feeling abused. They're not feeling, hate crimes after Brexit did go up. I completely admit that. And that happened to immigrants that have been living here for a long, long time. But you're talking, I just think, we mustn't start fear-mongering amongst people who actually, there's lots of people out here from European countries who are very happy and carrying on about their daily business.
Well, surveys have shown that EU doctors and nurses do feel unwelcome and undervalued. I found my colleague in tears by herself in the car park. In her car, I went to see to see if she's coming out, and she was sitting there in tears after the referendum. This is a huge issue. The assurances from Theresa May, first of all, it's only if you've been working here for 5 years. It doesn't give any guarantee for doctors and nurses coming to work in the UK after that, after Brexit. It doesn't give any guarantees for doctors and nurses who've been working for less than 5 years. And also, we don't actually know if that's has been agreed or will finally be agreed, because we don't even know what kind of deal there will be at the end of the day. There's still huge uncertainty. It would be really false to pretend there's any kind of certainty. And it's absolutely wrong to dismiss feelings. Feelings matter, because that's about people making decisions about where they spend their lives, where they do their work, where they raise their families. And we do know that there is a lot of fear around this issue. So we can't dismiss it, because we're talking about human beings after all, and we're talking about our workforce that is to look after our patients in the NHS. And beyond the workforce issue, which is a huge issue, there are many other issues that pertain to health and healthcare that could impact very adversely on the health of the British people. And it's absolutely irresponsible not to raise those issues and not to alert people to those threats.
Saira Khan refuses to accept that the statements that we heard from the Dr. Irvin a moment ago, that people, EU citizens, are feeling uncomfortable.
You have to be balanced. There's lots of EU people living in this country who feel that actually it's fine. They're not feeling this heat. Balance it up.
Okay.
And you're making it sound like
are you going to be shouting?
No, but you made a comment earlier that you made it sound like that if you voted Brexit, you're some kind of a racist or a xenophobe.
No, not at all.
No, but
I would not support that.
Like that.
That's how you might take it. But the facts are 45% of doctors, EU doctors, are considering leaving the UK. Okay, that's just a fact.
They're considering it.
You can argue 29% are saying they're unsure about whether they will leave. Those considering, more than 39% have made plans to leave. So 18% of them are definitely going to be going to leave. Now, you can read that. You can say, well, have they left? What does that mean? What I can tell you is that the EU citizens' rights have not been guaranteed. That is a fact. That is just a fact. You can shout at me as much as you want, but they have not been guaranteed. People like my partner,
what rights?
Right to remain.
So you think that part of this deal, Theresa May is going to say that if you are an EU citizen, you're not going to have rights to stay in this country. You think that's going to happen?
It may.
Well, I'm telling you, I genuinely, believing in the British people, that will not happen.
Which is lovely.
I think that.
Which is
genuinely,
really lovely.
I think that.
However, when you've got a house and a family and a mortgage and a career in this country, and with all due respect, what you think or what I think is immaterial.
No, it's important what you and I think, because we are the people that have voted.
Yeah, it is
this
immaterial.
Is a democracy.
Because actually, it is immaterial because we are merely radio presenters giving our opinion.
No, I'm a citizen of this country.
Yeah, but you can't really do something about it.
Yes, you can. You can vote and you can voice your opinion.
So if there's a no-deal scenario, right, and I assume you're against the people's vote, right? So if there's a no-deal scenario, what are you going to do?
But
What are you going to do?
But sorry, I think I must be living on a different planet.
Yeah.
We can influence what is going on. We can.
But how?
By getting people out there to voice their opinion, because the government have to take that on board.
A load of people marched against the Iraq war, for example. Yeah. Did that change the government perspective?
Thing is, this country democratically voted for Brexit.
Sure.
So are you saying to me that forget that vote? They got it all wrong because they were thick, those people.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
So what are you saying then?
I'll repeat it again. The EU citizens here,
yes,
their rights have not been guaranteed.
Right.
Okay, which means that if we drop out of the EU with no deal,
right,
there is a chance that if their rights are not guaranteed,
but there's a chance they could be guaranteed.
Okay, and if let's go down that route, fine. Okay. But if you've got a mortgage and a wife and a family or a husband and a career, you can't play that roll of the dice or that flip of the coin. You have to make a decision now.
Yes,
so you're looking at the future and you're thinking, should I sell my house and go back to where I came from or choose another EU country now? Or do I wait and see what happens? By waiting to see what happens, I may risk...
But do they not get residency? So their house, their mortgage, their work is guaranteed. Do they not get residency rights after 5 years?
After 5 years, I believe you can apply for a passport, right? But right now, if you've been here for less than 5 years, you don't have the right to remain. And that is subject to what deal we hammer out with the EU.
Okay.
So it may be that people are stuck here as EU citizens with no rights. Also, for those people who say, the government announced that for £65, which I did this on my Saturday show and I was outraged, but EU citizens that have been here, my wife's been here for 30 years almost, right? She's been here, actually a little bit less, 25 years. She's paid her taxes. She's never claimed anything. She's never even been to hospital. So she's been a net contributor. She's going to have to fill a form, pay £65 to be given permission to stay in this country.
Okay.
I think that's a bit... I'm not comfortable with that.
You know what? It's a pain in the butt.
I think it's a little bit insulting.
It's a pain in the butt, but the people of this country... A big proportion of people of this country voted for Brexit.
Yeah, no, that's
fine.
And this
is part of what Brexit means.
And
is
also,
that things are going to change
but also,
a little
Saira,
bit.
That also
but
means,
we are not going to just kick people out.
But that also, Saira, that means that people, right, people like my partner, other people that I know who are EU citizens, take that, they see their... I don't know if you can actually imagine.
Well, excuse me, I can imagine because my family are immigrants and we've been here for 30 years and we've lived with that kind of fear.
They see their home, somewhere that they made their home, they have their children, they have their house, and they have to pay some money and ask for permission to stay in their home and continue their life.
Okay.
I think that's a little unwelcoming.
Well, do you know what? As immigrants from outside of the EU, we go through a lot worse than that to get entry into this country. And it is humiliating. And it's far worse than paying 65 quid just to stay in this country. If you come from Pakistan, all right, to want to come and visit family over here, do you know what humiliating stuff you have to go through?
To visit family or to become a citizen?
To come as a student, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, but we're not talking about visiting. Well, we're talking about people living here.
But I'm just
when
saying,
you've got your British passport, you don't have to worry about being kicked out.
But Alexis, it's not as bad as if you're living here. Imagine if you just want to visit family, or if you want to come from medical services,
I'm not talking about
or if you want to come as a student from outside of the EU.
I'm not talking about visiting. I'm talking about people who have chosen to make their life here in this country.
Here, and they can be here.
Yeah, but Saira, you have to accept your refusal to accept that they feel that they are not welcome here, or that they feel. Let me finish. That they feel that they're not welcome here. That they feel that they are worried about their future. They don't know what their rights are going to be like in the future. You are dismissing that, and I think it's unfair of you to do so.
I think it's because I don't think and I don't believe that people in this country and the government of this country would make them feel that bad and kick them out and not give them rights.
Okay.
I genuinely believe that.
Saira believes that people have nothing to worry about, even though their rights are not guaranteed.
I think there's a lot of fear-mongering.